You're listening to Barbell Logic,
the podcast where we talk about what it means to experience strength
and how you can use simple, hard, and effective strategies in training and nutrition to improve your life.
It starts with meeting you where you are right now and finding lasting solutions.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Barbell Logic podcast. I am your co-host, Matt Reynolds. I'm here with my co-host, Nikki Sims. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
And man, this is sort of a new, fun podcast for us. We've been doing the Barbell Logic podcast for almost 5 years. We've got a little bit of a podcast refresh here. We're going to do some video podcasts, which means you're going to be more popular and I'm going to be less popular because you're significantly more attractive than me. And I wanted to take just a second and let's give a little background for certainly a lot of our listeners, I'm sure, know who we are, but if this is your first time listening so that you know what we're going to talk about. Our goal today is, in the podcast moving forward, is to really identify the major problems or challenges that we face, that our listeners face, that our clients face, and provide really actionable solutions or simple solutions. Or often we talk about simple, hard, and effective. They're simple. They're often hard. They're not easy, but it doesn't mean they're complicated, but they're super effective. And so that's the goal here, especially for the next kind of series that we're doing in the next several weeks. And we're going to talk about experiencing strength. Experience strength is a major tagline that we use in the business. Like, what does that look like? What does experiencing strength feel like? What's it look like? We're going to walk through that today. But I want to take just a second and give a little bit of background on each of us. So again, I'm Matt Reynolds. I own Barbell Logic Online Coaching. I founded it in 2016. I was a decent power lifter. I was a professional strongman back in the early 2000s. I wasn't a very good professional strongman, but I was decently strong at one point. And I love running Barbell Logic Online Coaching and doing this podcast. And so I've been doing this. I've been coaching for over 20 years at this point. I've been a competitive lifter for over 20 years, which means I'm old and I've got all this gray in my beard that now people can see because it's a video podcast. And by the way, if you're listening on your favorite podcast hosting service, that's great. If you want to watch, you can go to YouTube and you can see these on YouTube. So love it. Been the CEO of the company now for several years. And fun story about you. You were my very first employee. You're now a partner of mine. I love it. We get to have the best job in the world every single day. We get to make people's lives better. Not just our clients, our coaches, our staff. Our lives are better. I used to be a public school teacher. It's way better now. And so who are you?
I am Nikki Sims. I have been in the fitness industry since 2008, 2009, when I started as being a CrossFit coach. So my trajectory really changed a lot since I was in school, where I studied for construction management. And then I got the CrossFit bug, dove totally into that, had a gym. And then I realized that strength training is the only thing that I was decent at in CrossFit, except for double unders. I was really good at double unders, but you can't I don't know if you can make a career out of double unders.
Probably not.
So got really into strength training. I liked the systematic approach to it. And yeah, back in 2016, Matt took coaching online. And clearly that was a great decision. It's like you knew there was a pandemic coming and everyone was going to need it.
I did not, but I got lucky.
And yeah, now we get to coach full time and I love it. And I think because we've been in business so long, we've had to stay really curious with what it means for people to experience training and become stronger and how we can support them to do that. And that's really where this concept was born, was like, how do we help more people understand what that means to be strong and how can we help support them to do it?
Yeah, that's really good. You were really the one that came up with the tagline of experiencing strength. And so it was, I think, born out of our culture at our company and our core values and things that were important to us, and not just what we said, but what we did. But yeah, when we say the term experiencing strength and what that means, and let me be clear. So if you're listening to the podcast, our goal is not to turn our listeners or our clients necessarily into competitive power lifters or strongmen and that's cool and all. And we have people that do that in the business, but our goal is to really help our clients experience strength. And one of the things that we've talked about over the last couple of years is we really noticed that what we were doing was we were trying to improve people's quality of life. And so there are other things that will do that. There are things that will improve your quality of life, right? And we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but things like, if your relationships in your life improve, if your relationship with your spouse improves, your financial freedom improves, like your quality of life goes up. But we're not in that business. We're in the fitness business. And so lots of people do fitness so they can just like look good and take pictures of themselves and post on Instagram. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but we noticed that for our clients and for our coaches, their primary goal of training was to get strong, and even the getting strong part was really a symptom or a benefit of the overall goal, which was to increase or improve their quality of life. And so when we say experiencing strength, what comes to mind for you?
For me, it means that I can say yes to a lot more things. Like, I do jujitsu and I feel more comfortable than I know that I would if I couldn't deadlift a lot of weight, or if I couldn't squat, or if I couldn't bench press. Like, I am less intimidated by other people who I roll with. And any other workout variation that I do, I feel like I can go into it and figure it out. And I feel capable to be independent, which is awesome when you live by yourself and have to carry heavy furniture up these stairs behind me. I can get more done. And to me, it really just means I am able to try things. I may not be able to successfully do them right away, but I don't think that I can't do things.
Yeah.
I'm way more likely to be like, I can at least give this a good shot. Feels good. What about you?
Well, one of the benefits we really saw, even in my old days of being a gym owner, was as people got strong, one of our goals at the gym I used to own, and I haven't owned a gym in almost 10 years now, but it was to build confidence. And the fitness industry does a terrible job of that. They rob people of confidence, right? So here we are. This is the first episode of the new year. People are listening. They've made New Year's resolutions, and we don't. Man, I encourage that stuff. I think that's great, right? For some people, that will be the impetus to change their life for the year 2022, and I think it's wonderful. But so many people go into a gym in January, and there's nothing about it that builds their confidence. It's like, man, it's sort of a scary place to join, and it's a meat market. You got these people running around half naked, and they're taking pictures of themselves on Instagram or whatever. It's just not it's not what we're trying to do. And by the way, I want to be clear. Everybody wants to look better. Like on January 1, especially, like, who doesn't want to look better this year? Everybody does. There's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, looking better probably will improve your quality of life. But if that's your only goal is aesthetics, then I think you're missing the boat. And for most of our clients at Barbell Logic, they get that, right? They want to be better parents or grandparents, or keep up with their kids, or do better at their job, or recover better, or sleep better, have a better quality of life into their older age. Whatever those things are, our goal is to meet our clients where they are, and here in the podcast to meet our listeners where they are, and to help identify those problems and say, like, hey, yes, we can. Not only can we identify those, but we can sympathize with them because we've been there as well. And so for me, I'm probably more in this weakness place. Maybe this is a word. I'm more of a binary person on this, like experiencing strength versus experiencing weakness. You know me for years. I'm rarely a coaster. Like, I am experiencing strength and things are on point, and diet's on point, and training's on point, and everything's on point, or I am struggling in that world, right? And
experiencing food and experiencing
food,
not training as much.
That's right. Lack of training, not good sleep, not good recovery. And so one of the things I've struggled with that I'd like to talk about today is that, how do we change momentum for the better? It was an interesting year for me. 2021 was an interesting year because you'll remember back in November of 2020, we were in Utah. We were teaching a camp, and we were kind of talking about, like, what are the goals for next year? And I talked about, man, I really want to get healthy, and I want to lose some extra body fat. And things really changed for me from November through August of through 2021, half of 2021, man, I lost like 50 pounds and I don't know, like 7 or 8 inches off my waist. And I felt great. I loved to train. I got to the point where like I was motivated to train. I was motivated to do cardio. I was motivated to eat right. Motivated. Like I liked it. I enjoyed it. I felt great. I felt younger. I felt 10, 15 years younger.
Yeah, like whenever you had a choice in front of you, it was the choice that would support feeling good and training
right.
and eating well.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you experienced this. I mean, we went to some really nice restaurants that were not super high quality,
And I
healthy
could see
food.
you stressed out about like we went to the Southern restaurant and like everything that you can imagine on a Southern menu is buttery,
mashed potatoes,
and
white gravy,
delicious.
mac and cheese. It was that
and
kind
it was
of
like
stuff.
stressful for you. I felt
But
bad.
I still, I had a few bites of each thing and I enjoyed it. Here's what I know. For me, eating like what most of us think of as like a bodybuilder is not an improvement in my quality of life. I don't want to eat chicken breast and broccoli the rest of my life. That's no fun. And so understanding like the right balance between being able to train and be healthy and I train with my wife and it's a relationship builder for us and we cook at home and we enjoy that stuff. And so things were great. We had a big block conference in mid-August in my hometown. It was wonderful. And I kind of hit I think I was at 245 or 244 pounds of body weight and it felt great. And about 10 days after that, 10, 14 days, somewhere in there, 2 weeks after that block conference, I and my wife left for Scotland and England. We did a couple camps, Barbell Logic camps. I spent, I think, 16 days in England and Scotland drinking too much scotch and eating too much Michelin-starred food. And it was one, and there's not like you're not going even to, in the US, you'll go to like a Holiday Inn Express and there'll still be like some sort of hotel gym. We were going to, we're in the middle of nowhere on the island of Islay in Scotland at bed and breakfast. There's nowhere to train. So what happened was in September, momentum changed for me. I had spent, 10 months, 9 months experiencing strength, and all of a sudden momentum sort of got changed out of nowhere. It surprised me. And I started experiencing weakness. I wasn't training. I wasn't eating healthy. I wasn't, I was going to bed and usually having drunk maybe too much scotch. I mean, I wasn't hammered drunk, but I don't sleep well, even if I have 2 or 3 drinks. You didn't sleep as well. Recovery isn't, you're jet lagged, you're 6 hours ahead of time. And so really almost accidentally, I built momentum for experiencing weakness. And then I came home and was home for a week. And I went on another business trip to Guadalajara to visit one of our coaches who treated me awesome. Was a great host, but we ate a bunch more amazing Mexican food and too much tequila and all that stuff. Right. And so all of a sudden I had built this before I knew it. I had sort of blinked and a month or 6 weeks had gone by or 8 weeks had gone by. And I had built this momentum of experiencing weakness and all of a sudden it was gone and the waist was getting bigger and I didn't feel very good. I didn't feel as healthy. And I can look at my resting heart rate at night when I go to bed and it's higher, like all those little things. And so the struggle for me at the end of the year of 2021 and here into 2022 has been to how do I change momentum again from experiencing weakness to experiencing strength? And probably a lot of our listeners will listen to this and are like, man, they've come out of Thanksgiving, the holidays, Christmas, New Year's, and everybody wants to change. It's a great time of year for change, but man, it's hard to stop that train. Like you're literally trying to stop a train and turn it around on the tracks and go back the other way. And that's hard.
Yeah.
So
it is because it feels good. Like it feels great to go and travel and eat everything you want and go like all the way into like immersing yourself in the joy of that experience.
Yeah.
And then you get into this point where you need that momentum shift because you feel that that's where you don't want to be. You see where you want to be. And it's so hard to make any small changes because you don't get the satisfaction of the small changes yet. It takes such a long time. So you're getting enjoyment from one place. You don't feel good. You know there can be enjoyment later, but it's so hard to switch directions, like you said. And I think that's like the first problem that people encounter is they're feeling the weakness. And I think honestly, that's what most people are doing. They're living their life experiencing weakness. They just don't know it yet.
Yep.
Like everyone who knows lifts you know, but you didn't know until you knew.
That's right.
And so getting out of that gear takes a big deal. But then like you lift, you eat. Other lifters like myself, I like to follow rules. I like to lift and train and do my nutrition. But then when an injury occurs, like there you are feeling less than, you know, you're not as happy, compare yourself to where you were before, and like feel like I'm in a deficit.
Yep.
And so it's like, it takes making really hard choices to get out of there.
Yeah. Yeah,
So we
it's
have
a
to
really
like
good point.
come up with little tricks to get ourselves out.
That's right. So, and we'll talk about kind of small wins and whatnot. But it's first off, for those of you who are listening, you're probably in one of two boats right now in early January. You're either in the boat where you've really never experienced strength and you just have to kind of come to terms with like my whole life I've kind of experienced weakness. I don't even know what experiencing strength really feels like. You can maybe go back to a time in your life when you're in the best shape of your life, but man, I'm telling you, until you've experienced strength, you don't really get it. You don't understand.
It's so gratifying.
Yes. Well, and I think what's the advantage there, if that's you, if you've never really kind of walked through the fire of getting strong and experiencing strength, I think it's actually significantly easier to change your momentum then, because the sort of quote unquote newbie gains you get, like when you start to do this thing, you're like, oh my gosh, like I changed so much in a short period. Like in 10 days, in 2 weeks, you're like, I'm not even the same person I was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're somebody like me or our listeners who have listened to us for a while, if you've experienced strength and now you're coming out of a season where you've experienced weakness, it's really difficult I think it's more difficult to change momentum, because you know what great felt like. You know what it felt like to be strong. You know what it felt like to like live this
So right.
high quality of life. You're like, I'm not there right now. I remember there was about a 3 or 4 year period where I played golf all the time. I know people are going to listen to this and be like, Matt played golf? Like, I did. There was a time when I did. Yeah, it was in the early 2000s. I got pretty good at golf. And I didn't play golf for like 3 or 4 years. And I went and played one time. I had some friends who were like, we went and played golf. And I was terrible. Well, like if you've never played golf, you expect to be terrible. So you're not frustrated.
Yeah.
But if you were good or decent at one time at golf and then you go back and you play and you're terrible, you're like breaking clubs over your knee. Right. And that's the problem with when you've been healthy, when your waist has been small, when you've been in a good shape, you're strong, you look good, you feel good. It's hard to change that momentum. And so I think the takeaway for me for this podcast and for our listeners is like, how do we stop the damage and change the momentum? Right. That's key. If you've never done this, all you have to do is make the decision to do it. Just do it. And you'll be amazed within the first week's a little weird because you don't know your form. We'll talk about that stuff in future episodes, but like your form's a little weird. Maybe you don't know exactly where to start or what to do, but like, man, doing anything, the return on investment is incredible. Whereas if you've been strong in the past, like me, and then you get weak and you get unhealthy, then here's what I think happens. I've talked about this in the past, but I want to revisit it again with the podcast refresh. Really, nothing is off topic. I want to be able to bring up some of these ideas that we've talked about in past years for people who haven't heard it before. And people will talk a lot about like discipline and motivation and the relationship between those two. And some people out there will say like, you have to have discipline over motivation. And, they write it like a fraction. Discipline is the numerator and motivation is the denominator. And then Brett McKay, our good friend from Art of Manliness a couple years ago, he wrote an article about now it's motivation over discipline. Sustainability, like discipline over motivation is not sustainable. And so it's motivation over discipline. And as I've looked at this in my own life and in the life of our thousands of clients at Barbell Logic, it's both. There's a continuum I see. And so for me, when I have developed momentum to be weak, to experience weakness, and I want to experience strength again, listen, I don't want to train. I walk with my wife around the neighborhood. I don't want to walk. It's winter. It's cold. I got to put a hoodie on and a coat and gloves and a winter hat. And
Matt doesn't get cold.
Yeah,
Matt is just
unless
constantly
it's
running
4 degrees outside like it is right now. And
it
then
takes a lot for Matt to be
That's
cold.
right. It's no fun.
Welcome to how the rest of us feel.
You live in Orange County.
But yeah, that was by choice.
when you go home for Christmas, you feel it. So, I know I've done this enough times, changing momentum for better or for worse. that in the beginning, especially if I'm going from experiencing weakness to experiencing strength, or I want to experience strength, I have to have the discipline to just go, I'm going to do this for a while. I don't want to do it. I don't want to get up and train. I don't want to eat right. I don't want to walk. I don't want to do all the things I'm supposed to do, but I'm going to do those things. And so there is sort of an aspect of discipline over motivation. So for those of you listening, it's New Year's, give it January. Discipline over motivation. But here's what I've found, and I think this is true for almost everybody. Once you start to feel better, motivation will start to overtake the discipline. And you don't have to remain disciplined anymore. It starts to be easy to eat better. It's easy to be consistent with your workouts. It's easy to do your walks. It's easy to go to bed at the right time and get 8 hours of sleep at night. Those things become easier because everything you do, your whole life is really impacted by experiencing strength. And so for me, as I start to train, the training drives the nutrition, the training drives the sleep, the training drives the recovery, like all those things. Right now, let me just be honest. I have changed momentum in my life and I'm experiencing strength, but I don't like it yet.
So when you're in that phase before you want to switch momentum to, we'll call it the experiencing weakness phase.
Yeah.
What would your answer to this question be? What do you want right now?
Well, so this is, I think it's a question of short-term instant gratification versus long-term, like how I really feel, like what's real, right? So, in the moment, biscuits and gravy feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Sleeping feels pretty good. Twitter feels pretty good. Netflix feels pretty good. But the long-term effect of that is I feel terrible.
Yeah.
Right? Like I remember, and I don't hardly, even in experiencing weakness now, I don't hardly eat fast food because I feel so gross. But I remember back in the days where I used to eat fast food, like even as a college kid or power lifter, I was trying to gain weight or whatever. You'd eat fast food, or eat McDonald's or whatever, and like it feels so good to eat McDonald's. Those French fries, especially if they're hot, salt them, you're like, so good. And like 30 minutes after, you're like, I feel so terrible.
Yeah.
And it wasn't guilt. I didn't feel, let me be clear. Like I didn't feel terrible because I was guilty.
Like
I felt
physically.
terrible because I felt terrible.
Yeah. Like your stomach was like, why?
Yeah.
Why though?
Yeah. Find a bathroom. Time.
And
yeah. So it was a problem.
And then after you switch gears, when you have the momentum going, what is the answer to that same question? What do you want?
Well, the interesting thing is that short-term instant gratification feels really good, but oddly enough, and so this is, I think, what happens in you start in that sort of discipline piece where you're like, I'm just going to do the right thing. I'm going to train. I'm going to eat right. I'm going to sleep right. I'm going to do all the right stuff. There isn't like a short-term feel that feels good. Like I squatted yesterday, squatted and deadlifted pretty hard yesterday. Man, I slept awful last night. I had like what I think they call on the commercials, restless leg syndrome. What I call the Jimmy legs. I had the Jimmy legs. And I had the Jimmy legs till like, well, at 1:30 in the morning, I got up and went into the guest bedroom because I was keeping my wife up so much and dragged and then I Jimmy legged until 3:30 in the morning and finally went back to sleep. And it was just like my body, like the neurons were firing from the squats and deadlifts. So you don't have that short-term feel-good piece, but you do get the long-term feel-good piece first, which is interesting. And then as time goes on and the motivation comes, the short-term feel-good piece is like 5x, 10x of what McDonald's makes you feel like.
Exactly.
It's bizarre. I get up and I'm like, oh man, I feel so much better waking up in the morning.
Yeah.
I drink my coffee and my bubbly water. And like I go out and walk with my wife when she wakes up, and like all of that makes me feel better. So for me, the one advantage I have, and if you've experienced this, is that because I've been through it before, I know that even in the midst of the discipline, the motivation will come.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm in a good spot right now because the first half of 2021, I was experiencing strength. I felt amazing. The second half of 2021, I felt terrible. I was traveling. I was eating lots of food. I felt good in the short term and terrible in the long term. And now I'm actually in that spot where I'm in the middle, where I'm like, I'm disciplined. I'm doing the right thing, but I don't like it yet. I don't enjoy training. I don't enjoy walking. I don't enjoy eating healthy, but I am certain that the motivation is going to come. And so that to me is the key in understanding, like, this is what's true. What's true is if I do the right thing now, white knuckle discipline it for a few weeks, the motivation will come and that will lead to long-term sustainability. If I'm white knuckle disciplining this thing 2 months down the road, not sustainable. It's not going to last, right? And for me, that's what we want. That's what we want for me. That's what I want at Barbell Logic for our clients. That's what I want for our listeners is ultimately you want to do this in a way that is long-term sustainable.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Whenever you ask that question, it seems like people want to feel good. What changes is what feeling good means to them.
Definitely.
So right now, feeling good is eating, enjoying the holidays, and that's going to feel really good. And then, I'm sorry, right now is when we're recording it, which is right before Christmas, which I'm
Right.
really excited to feel good with. And then feeling good starts to mean something different. You can start to zoom out and reframe the timeline. And so you can still make choices that were once difficult, but even though it's difficult, it feels good. It feels right because you're able to find something that's important enough to translate into feeling good in the moment.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of what we've talked about a little bit before is like small wins, acknowledging PRs, kind of getting yourself out of the past and looking more into where you are right then and just like being appreciative of what's going on in that moment.
Yep.
And that I think takes us out of feeling like we're at a deficit from where we were before.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. You know, for me too, and this is sort of a tip, a trick that will work for some and not for others. But Rachel and I were like, we got to book a trip to the beach.
Yeah.
Because when we
for you.
book a trip, when we book a trip to the beach, I'm like, now I've got motivation. I don't want to go out on the beach and be white and fat and feel gross about myself. And what's, this, I set up my beach vacations where we go to a resort that has an amazing gym and spa and great healthy food and all those. So I go from training 3 days a week or 4 days a week here at home to training every day on vacation because I love the process of training. I don't train super hard every single day. I go in there for 40 minutes or whatever, and I do like a lift and some accessory work. I get up in the morning, I do online coaching, and I go do the gym opens at 7, and I do that. And then I usually go to the spa at 8, which is attached to the gym, and I'll do like hot tub, cold tub, spa, or sauna, all that kind of stuff.
Quite an experience.
I meet my family at 9 and eat really good breakfast. And I'll eat like egg whites or hard-boiled eggs and like salmon sashimi and feel good, and then go right to the beach from there. Read books, get some sun, which makes you feel better too. And so I come back always like invigorated from those vacations. I do other vacations, my family will go to, a city or Disney World or Universal or something. And it's just run. It's go. And it's super fun, but you don't come back refreshed. And so for us, when we're in a kind of a perpetual state of experiencing weakness, we start to look for like, what's the thing that we can pursue that'll be the motivation for us, that'll help bring the motivation faster. And for us, it's like, it's the beach vacation. Like it's going to make the motivation go from like, oh, it's going to take 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Got to be motivated to do the thing. It's like, oh, I'm going to get motivated to do the thing in 10 days, 11 days, 14 days. And I'm off and running. And so you got something to work towards.
This is one of the solutions that I might just go ahead and jump to that I was thinking about is we have to have big wins that actually mean something to us. And I think there's a helpful process to actually go through when you're thinking about what these big wins are. Like you really need to, here's woo-woo California Nikki coming out again, but you need to really like pay attention to how that makes you feel.
Mm-hmm.
So some big wins when you're sitting thinking about like what's important to me, it could be like, oh, I think I should be able to squat 315, or I really should weigh 155, or I really want to get my next belt promotion. And pay attention to when you say something like that or when you write it down, does it make you feel excited? Like for you, it makes you feel excited to get ready to go to the beach.
That's right.
It makes you want to do something right now.
Yep.
But if you write down a goal or say a goal out loud and it doesn't make you want to do anything, that is not the right goal right now.
Wrong goal. That's right.
Yeah. Yep. It needs to be something that makes you like want to take action immediately. And it should, I think it works well when you're able to describe it And you get really proud of that future state.
Yeah.
You're like, I cannot wait to be that person who acts like that. And I think that will help you set a good kind of guide to what important small wins can be.
Yes. Yeah, I like that. It's the relationship between the big wins and the small wins. So you almost set the big win first. You're like, here's the goal. Here's what I'm working toward. And then you fill up the time between now and then with the small wins, right? The small wins might literally be like, it's literally something as, I'm not going to order DoorDash for breakfast this week, or I'm just going to make breakfast at home and just do eggs or whatever. Or I'm going to be consistent about, I love to gamify my Apple Watch and fitness and activity, and I track all my workouts, and which is kind of a pain in the butt when you press and you need like wrist wraps on. You've got to wear your watch so it tracks your heart rate.
Totally.
But, I do those things. And so I like those things. I think that, this is theoretically January. I'm pretty sure that Rachel got me for Christmas one of those Aura rings. So, that track your sleep and other stuff. And one of the things it does that the Apple Watch doesn't do is it tracks your body temperature, which I'm kind of interested, as much as hot as I am all the time. I'm interested
I'm super curious.
Yeah, like what's going on? Like, I'm 101 all the time. So
you are having hot flashes, sir.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm obviously menopausal already. So I just think you find those little wins, and big wins I think are often sort of similar across clients. And then the little wins become very individualized. Like, what is the thing, right? Our head nutrition coach, Jillian Ward, she calls that the triage method, right? So she looks at kind of what your lifestyle is and what your nutrition habits are, and she triages it. It's like, what's the biggest deal? Like, okay, you're having, 5 alcoholic drinks a day. That is probably a problem at some point.
Yeah.
But, it's not, she's like, okay, that's the thing, right? Or you're drinking soda 3 times a day or whatever, right? Like whatever the thing is. And so you start to triage. And you get those little wins, and maybe that triage is like I'll give an example for us in the holidays, not in the actual holidays where we're here with family, but in the days that are busy and Christmas shopping and nuts. Like, you've been to our house, we live 5 minutes from everything, which means we can DoorDash anything. And so one of the wins for us is like, we're not going to use DoorDash. By the way, I'm not anti-DoorDash or any of those, but it's just like, if I like making food at home, by the way, not making food at home is not just healthier for us. It's like a family sort of bonding event. We made fajitas last night, and and fajitas are sort of a kind of a build your own fajita. So people like chopping peppers and chopping onions and cilantro and making cilantro lime crema, and you got all these limes and all this stuff, and so you've got jobs for everybody, and you do it as a family, and we turn on Alexa and we listen to music,
this is
and like that's the thing.
Experiencing strength, like you're having quality time with your whole family, like that's what it means.
You get done at the end and you're like, I feel better, the food was better, the nutrition was better, and the experience was better. So when we talk about experiencing strength, it's not just about strength, right? And so for a long time, there's a lot of people out there that are pushing like strength over everything else. Strength is like the only thing that matters. Strength for us is the greatest bang for your buck. Like the actual improvement in strength of increasing force production is probably the greatest return on investment you can get. We'll talk about that more in future episodes, but it's the experience of the thing that matters, right? And so for us, that we love active lifestyles. Part of my experiencing strength for me personally is not just being able to squat and deadlift and bench and press a certain number, but it's going out and doing, a walk with my wife 5 days a week, 2 harder cardio sessions, like HIIT sessions 2 days a week, cooking dinner at home as a family, quality time. Oh man, we have a cabin. You've been to my cabin before. I took my whole family to the cabin in the last week for 4 days. And we did a no cell phone, no computer.
Oh my God.
Bro, it was so good. We played games. Amazing. We played spades. My 11-year-old kicked everybody's butt in spades. She never played spades. Guitar spades, we played dominoes. We cooked food together. It was so great. Oh yeah, which we call Rumpolumpkin. Rummy Cub or Rummy Cube. We call Rumpolumpkin.
So fun.
We play all those games. And there was just like, this is so good. And so, I want to make sure strength at its foundational basis is force production. But when we talk about experiencing strength, we're talking about those things, like that lifestyle that improves your quality of life, which literally part of my experience strength life is going to my cabin with my family, putting the phones up and playing board games. Like that's, to me, philosophically, that's experiencing strength. Cooking food on the campfire, right? Like sitting around the campfire and talking about life, or listening to good songs or singing songs together. Like I'd be totally embarrassed, if people heard, but like that's the stuff we do as a family. That's like, this, man, life is good. Right.
Right.
And I'll capstone on this. Rachel had, she doesn't do this very often, but 2 nights ago, she had one of those like bad dreams, which almost always is involved like me, like abandoning, like leaving everyone, and it's really sad. I'm like, oh man, I'm brokenhearted that she had that. And yet there's like this joy in the midst of it, because you're like, how amazing is our life that we get to, that's not it. Our life is like, our relationship's awesome. Our relationship with our kids are awesome. We get to do these things. We train together. We exercise together. We cook food together. Like, and so to me, that's what experienced strength is. So for you, it might be a little bit different, the listener, but it's probably similar, right? It's that, what does an improved quality of life look like? And for me, strength, right nutrition, a right relationship with food, a right relationship with training, a right relationship with my wife and kids, that's all part of that experiencing strength.
I noticed not noticed, but I know we track a lot of PRs at Barbell Logic. Our software actually, whenever you hit a new PR in any kind of realm or exercise, it alerts you right away.
Yeah.
And being in business for 5 years, we've seen a lot of really amazing lifting PRs, and we've heard a lot of really awesome life PRs. And I think it's because they've lifted and trained, and they and we have gotten to such a good habit that both of those PRs happen. And it's worth it to celebrate them, because that's what shows that your small wins are doing something.
That's good.
Yeah, I think for those who are kind of maybe, I don't want to say trapped, but experiencing that point where it's just like, I'm here, I don't like where I'm at, I want to be somewhere different. Start paying attention to those choices that you make during the day. Some choices don't make you feel proud or great. Some choices do.
Yep.
And you actually are able to choose something different, and then make that choice, call it a win, and then make another choice.
That's right.
And before you know it, you're going to feel like freaking awesome. And you'll be like we are, talking about how much we love experiencing strength.
Yeah.
It's like little choices add up.
Yeah. We talk about, we'll talk in future episodes a lot about our philosophy of programming, which is minimum effective dose programming. And a lot of people will say like, well, what's the minimum effective dose that works? But that's not it. It's what's the minimum effective dose that brings the greatest return on investment. You got to have that second part.
Which is usually the one you're going to do.
Yeah. And so you think about like, often there is a small win, one small win, or two small wins that is not hard for you to achieve, that has a tremendous positive return on investment for your life. By the way, this is why templates don't work very well, right? Because those small wins are different for everybody. And so it doesn't mean that people don't make progress on those things, but it's just like, that's why personalized stuff matters, right? Like your small wins are going to make the greatest return on your on your life is going to be different than mine, or different than our listeners, or different than our clients. And so identify those things as here we are in the first of the year. You've got a whole year ahead of you. You can make 2022 the best year of your life. The goal is to think about like, what are the first couple steps I need to make, or even just the first one step I need to make. It'll make the greatest impact, the greatest return on investment in my life, and go get that small win. Don't push for like, hey, I need to lose 8 inches off my waist. Like that's how you can, but that's a year away. That's 10 months away. That's whatever, right? Like what can you do this week that will start to change the momentum from experiencing weakness to experiencing strength? That's the key. And that's what we're trying to do. And we're trying to do that in our own lives, right? Like we're not sitting up here on our soapboxes and being like, here's what you need to do. Like this is reality for us every single day, reality for our coaches every single day, reality for our clients every single day, and reality for you, the listener. And so hopefully you got some takeaways from that in this episode. And so hopefully this will give you a good feel for what the future episodes are going to be. These ideas of how do we identify a problem, identify a challenge, present simple, hard, effective solutions to those challenges, give some personal connections to those, like, because we've gone through those as well. So we can all walk away after the podcast and like, I hope you listen to this podcast and it brings you joy and it brings you return on investment. And you listen to it, you're like, that was great. I've got something I can go do now. That's the idea, right? You listen to it, you're like, I was motivated, and now I actually know that there's a thing I can do. And so, and for me, like even recording this stuff is motivating for me and exciting for me to do those things. So, man, I'm excited for the podcast for this year and all the fun stuff we have coming out. We got all kinds of great stuff that we're going to talk about. And so, but the focus is, if you've listened to us in the past, the focus has often been about like, here's our philosophy on X, here's what we believe. And those things haven't changed really. But we really want to make it more about you, the listener. Like here are those problems and those challenges that we're trying to solve. And here's how here are our solutions. Here's what we've done in our own lives. Here's what we've done in our clients' lives. So you have something that you can take away, even if you're not a client of Barbell Logic, that you can take away and say, man, I can make a step in the right direction to improve my quality of life. Because that's really what it's all about, right? At the end of the day, a 700-pound, deadlifter squat is awesome, but an improved quality of life is 10x better. And so that's what we want for you in 2022.
Woo. Awesome. I'm excited.
Thank you for listening to the Barbell Logic podcast. If you got some value out of this, man, we'd love some feedback. You can email us. It's in the show notes. You can give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. So tell a friend, share. Again, one of those things that we're going to try to do here in the next couple of months is to create podcasts that are sort of foundational podcasts that you can share with a friend, family member. We're going to be very careful so that we're careful about the words that we say. We're going to be transparent and honest, but we want to make sure that it's appealing to a broad audience. So, we're not going to drop F-bombs and curse words and things like maybe sometimes when necessary.
I'm curious if Jimmy Legs is going to not get bleeped out.
The Jimmy Legs. I've called it that since I was like 17 in high school. Crazy wrestler. Crazy leg. I would say crazy leg syndrome, restless leg syndrome, i.e. the Jimmy Legs. So episode 1 of the new year. We're excited to bring you lots more every Tuesday. And so we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for listening.
Bye.